You're not lazy. You're addicted to ease. Every time it gets hard, you flinch. Every time it gets quiet, you scroll. You think you're resting, but you're rotting. They told you to seek balance, but you turn that into an excuse. You call it self-care. But really, it's self-abandonment. You don't need more time. You've had time. You wasted it. You've had chances. You quit, not because you couldn't, but because it hurt. And the truth? You'd rather stay comfortable than become someone worth being. The Stoics didn't chase comfort. They chased clarity. They welcomed pain. They trained for death. You scroll for peace. They sat in silence. You chase validation. They crushed ego. You run from failure. They ran toward it. You say you're stuck, but you're just addicted to easy. What if success isn't found in doing more, but in needing less? What if the path forward starts with everything you're unwilling to feel? This isn't about motivation. This is about what you kill, so something stronger can take its place. So I'll ask you once, what are you still clinging to that's keeping you average? They sold you a version of success, the house, the car, the brand, the body. They told you to build your value by stacking things, chase more, own more, be more. But no one told you this. You can have everything and still feel like nothing. You wake up and the world tells you to want status, want praise, want eyes on you. So you chase, you work, you grind, not for purpose, but for proof. Proof that you're not behind, proof that you matter, proof that you exist. But success, real success, isn't loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It's not something you show. It's something you carry. You think the goal is to be seen. The Stoics knew better. They knew the real danger wasn't being poor, it was being enslaved to your cravings, your distractions, your ego. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." And most people haven't. They're not living, they're performing. So let me ask you something. Why do you want what you want? Is it yours, or did the world plant it in you? Because you weren't born chasing followers. You weren't born afraid to be alone. You weren't born comparing your life to strangers. That came later. That was installed. And now, you're stuck in a loop. You overwork, but feel worthless. You distract yourself, but feel empty. You get what you thought you wanted, and still feel lost. Because here's the truth. Success without self-awareness is just a nicer prison, a bigger cage, a shinier mask. And Stoicism? It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about building a life that doesn't need applause. So if you're tired of feeling behind, if you're tired of chasing things that don't fix the feeling, you're in the right place. This video, it's not going to hand you a morning routine. It's not going to hype you up for 2 hours, then leave you empty again. This video will tear down the lies you've been fed. It will show you what the Stoics actually practiced, and it will force you to confront the uncomfortable thing, the things you've been avoiding. But I'll be honest with you, that's not for everyone. If you want shortcuts, you'll hate this channel. If you want comfort, you won't last here. But if you're ready to face yourself, to look at what you've become, and to burn what needs to go, then subscribe right now. Because here, we don't chase hype. We chase clarity. We chase stillness. We chase truth, no matter how ugly. You've been taught that success is about rising above others, but Stoicism teaches you to rise above yourself. And if you can do that, if you can master you, no one else can touch you. So stay with me. Because over the next 40 minutes, we're not just talking about habits. We're rebuilding you from the ground up. This isn't self-help. This is self-discipline, self-ownership, self-respect. You ready? Then breathe, let go, and watch what happens. When you stop chasing more and start becoming less distracted, less reactive, less needy, and suddenly you'll feel something deeper than success. You'll feel free. You think your life is hard, deadlines, dead phones, someone doesn't text back fast enough, and it ruins your whole day. But let me tell you something. The Stoics lived through things you wouldn't survive. Epictetus was born a slave, owned, controlled, whipped. He had no possessions, no rights, no freedom, but he had one thing, his mind, and they couldn't touch it. He said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." Let that sink in. It wasn't the chains that tormented him. It was how people chose to see their chains. So he chose not to see them. He practiced control, not over the world, but over himself. And that's Stoicism. Seneca was one of the richest men in Rome, a statesman, a writer. He lived in palaces. But he practiced poverty. Why? Because comfort softens you. Comfort lies. Seneca knew you can lose everything in a second, so he rehearsed it. He fasted. He wore cheap clothes. He slept on the floor. He wasn't preparing for disaster. He was beating it to the punch. He said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." So he imagined pain, so it wouldn't surprise him when it came. That's discipline. That's what we've lost. And then there's Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the world, and yet he wrote in secret to himself, in a journal never meant to be read. He wasn't writing to impress. He was writing to remember that even an emperor is a servant to time, that titles mean nothing, that death comes for kings and beggars alike. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." Can you even imagine ruling the Roman Empire by day and reminding yourself at night that none of it matters? Now compare that to today. You're upset because your phone's too slow. You're panicking because someone didn't like your post. You're complaining because your morning coffee wasn't oat milk. We are drowning in comfort and starving for meaning. The Stoics didn't need retreats or healing energy or vision boards. They had reality, cold, unfiltered, and they faced it every single day. They believed in showing up, doing their duty. No drama, no excuses. You've been told that feeling good is the goal, that life is about ease, that struggle means something's wrong. But they knew the truth. Struggle is the price of strength. Pain is the tax you pay for clarity. And most people don't want to pay it. They want the result, not the weight. They want the confidence without the courage. They want peace. But they chase dopamine. The Stoics chased something else. Virtue, character, responsibility, not because it's sexy, but because it's right. That's why Epictetus, a man born in chains, still had more freedom than most people alive today. Because freedom isn't about movement, it's about mindset. You can live in a mansion and still be enslaved. You can have millions of followers and still feel invisible. You can have it all and still hate yourself. But if you master your judgment, if you choose how to respond, no one owns you. Not fear, not failure, not fame. This isn't philosophy for classrooms. It's philosophy for war, for chaos, for heartbreak, for you. You are not too weak. You are not too broken. You've just been told to avoid the very things that would make you powerful. Pain, boredom, silence, responsibility. The Stoics didn't run from these things. They trained in them because they knew the ultimate truth. You become what you endure. So don't ask for life to get easier. Ask for the strength to carry it. Because when you stop avoiding pain, you become untouchable. That's what they knew. That's why we still talk about them 2,000 years later. And that's why you're still watching. Because something in you is tired of the noise, tired of the lies, tired of chasing things that don't last. So here's what we're going to do next. We're going to strip back the surface. We're going to take each habit, one by one, and show you how the Stoics used them to build minds that couldn't be broken. You came looking for productivity. You stayed for clarity. But what's coming now is transformation. You see, people want hacks, systems, quick wins, but none of that matters until something inside you dies. No, not your body. That will happen anyway. I'm talking about the version of you that can't carry this mission forward. The reactive self. The one that avoids hard choices. The one addicted to distraction, praise, ease. That self. It's the reason you've read books and made no change. It's the reason you start things and never follow through. It's the reason you feel tired, not in your body, but in your soul. Let's call it what it is, the ineffective self. The part of you that talks more than it acts, that dreams but never delivers, that watches content about high performance, but lives like comfort is the goal. I'll do it when I have time. Maybe next year. I'm not ready. You've said it before. But what if that version of you, the one always waiting, always explaining, is exactly what needs to die? Because being effective isn't a personality, it's not a mood, it's not some identity you just fall into. It's a discipline, forged in fire, maintained in silence, and earned through daily, invisible war. The Stoics didn't teach motivation, they taught readiness. They didn't worship potential, they trained character. And to become highly effective, to truly live a life of purpose, clarity, and impact, you must confront the very self that's been holding the steering wheel. The one that gets offended easily, the one that makes excuses, the one that calls procrastination self-care. That version is not neutral, it's not harmless, it's costing you everything. Every day you give in to it, you delay your future. Every time you seek approval over mastery, you lose ground. Every moment you pretend to be busy instead of being brutally honest. You trade effectiveness for comfort. So what do? You let it die. You kill the ineffective self, the one that checks their phone before checking their priorities, the one that breaks promises to themselves, the one that lives on autopilot and calls it normal. You burn that script, the one that says you're not ready, the one that says you need more confidence, the one that says tomorrow is a better time to begin. Because you and I both know there is no right time. There is only now and what you do with it. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. These 7 habits are not trends, they're not feel-good tricks, they're war-tested disciplines built to sharpen the soul. And yes, they'll feel uncomfortable, but so is living a life beneath your potential. So is lying in bed at night knowing you wasted the day. This isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming effective, clear, calm, dangerous in your discipline. And it all starts with a choice. Do you want to stay where you are, or do you want to build a version of yourself that's undeniable? Because no one's going to do it for you. No one's coming to save you. No one's going to hand you a meaningful life. You have to earn it. Through action, through silence, through sweat, through the kind of internal work no one applauds, but everyone eventually sees. So if you're ready to shed the version of you that's been dragging you down, then stay. Because in the next few minutes, you're going to hear 7 habits that can change everything, not because they're trendy, but because they work, and because they require something real from you. Let's begin. Habit 1, wake up with purpose. Your alarm rings, you check your phone, notifications, emails, news, distractions, all of it, pulling you before you've even taken your first conscious breath. And right there, in those first 60 seconds, you've already lost the day. Because the first thing you fed your mind was noise. Not clarity, not direction, not purpose, just noise. But the Stoics lived differently. They believed the way you wake is the way you live. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Marcus Aurelius. Let that sink in. Not a command, not a demand, a reminder that waking up is not owed to you, it's given, and what you do with it is your response to that gift. Now, let's be honest, most people don't wake up with gratitude. they wake up with dread. They hit snooze, they scroll, they delay reality, because facing the day means facing themselves. And most aren't ready for that. But the Stoics, they prepared for the day before the day began. They didn't need 17-step routines or overpriced supplements. They had something more powerful: intention. A Stoic morning wasn't about what they did. It was about how they thought. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Every morning they began with mental armor, not to avoid the world, but to face it head on. They would write, journal, not for likes, not for followers, for clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations not for anyone else, but for himself, to remind himself who he wanted to be, to prepare for what the day might bring: irritation, delay, rudeness, loss. He pre-lived the friction, so it wouldn't own him when it came. That was his superpower. Now, let's talk about you, because you don't live in a Roman palace. You live in a world of overstimulation, cheap dopamine, and endless choice. You don't fight tigers or barbarians. You fight your own laziness. You battle comparison, procrastination, temptation, and those fights, they're won or lost in the first hour of your day, because how you start sets the rhythm, and rhythm becomes identity. Let me ask you something real. When was the last time you woke up without your phone? When was the last time you sat in stillness and asked yourself what kind of person you actually wanted to be? Not what your job wants, not what your family expects, what you want. That's where power begins. People like Jocko Willink wake up at 4:30 a.m., not because it's trendy, but because it's decisive. It's a reminder that the inner war is being won. Ryan Holiday journals in the morning, not to feel good, but to get clear. Tim Ferriss once said that 90% of the most successful people he interviewed had some form of mindfulness, writing, or stillness practice at the start of their day. It's not magic, it's not motivation, it's structure, it's commitment, it's discipline, and it's ancient. So here's how you apply it. Don't overhaul your whole life. Start with 30 minutes. Just the first 30 minutes of your day. Make them sacred. 1. No phone. Put it in another room. Set a physical boundary between you and distraction. 2. Sit in silence. Let the noise drain out. Let your breath remind you that you're still here. 3. Ask, what kind of person do I want to be today? Not what do I want to get, but who do I want to be? 4. Write it down. Just a few lines, but make it real. Your values, your intention, your commitment to strength, not comfort. 5. Do something uncomfortable. Cold shower, walk outside, make your bed with presence. Start the day by proving to yourself that you don't need ease to move forward. This is how you shift identity, not with speeches, not with Instagram quotes, but with ritual. Every single morning, you decide who wins, the false self, or the real one, the distracted version of you, or the focused one, the anxious one, or the grounded one. Because when you wake up with intention, you stop drifting, and drifting is the enemy of greatness. Don't waste the rest of your life wondering what it would be like if you had started today. Marcus Aurelius. So ask yourself, are you willing to take the first 30 minutes of your morning seriously? Because if you can't master your morning, you won't master your day. And if you can't master your day, you'll never master your life. Start small, start real, start now. The world will wait, your phone can wait, your greatness can. Habit 2. Train your response. There's a story about a man who spent 27 years in prison, wrongfully accused, tortured, humiliated, abandoned by the world. His name was Nelson Mandela. And when he finally walked out of that prison, he was asked how he felt. His response? As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. Think about that, because most people carry invisible prisons: bitterness, resentment, ego, overreaction. Someone cuts them off in traffic. They explode. A stranger insults them. They spiral. A delay, a slight, a glance, and their entire emotional system collapses. Why? Because no one taught them this truth. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Epictetus. The Stoics were obsessed with response, not the world, not other people, not control, response. They knew the world was unpredictable, that people would betray, that plans would fall apart, that death, illness, delay, injustice were not exceptions, but constants. So they trained themselves to respond rather than react. Seneca wrote, "You may be sure that you are at peace with yourself when no noise can interrupt your thoughts, no insult your dignity, no setback your direction." That wasn't a metaphor, that was a standard. Let me give you an example. Imagine you've worked on something for months. You've poured everything into it: time, energy, pride, and then someone else takes credit for it, publicly. They're praised. You're invisible. Now stop. What's your instinct? Anger, defensiveness, revenge? Now ask this: is that response useful? Does it restore the truth? Does it move you forward? Or does it just consume you? This is what the Stoics trained for. To pause, to ask, what part of this can I control? Because anger is easy, control is rare. In a world addicted to instant reaction, they practiced measured response. In a world obsessed with justice, they focused on character. They didn't let others dictate their emotions, because if you let your reaction depend on someone else, you've given them power over your mind. And that is a form of slavery. A wise man is indifferent to things he cannot control. Epictetus. Now let's bring it to today. You're ghosted by someone you care about. You're passed over for a promotion. You're disrespected online. You have two choices. One, react immediately. Post, yell, complain, play the victim. Two, or pause, breathe, think, and ask, what's my highest response here? You see, the Stoics weren't passive. They didn't suppress emotion. They examined it, held it up like a gem, turned it over, asked, where did this come from? Does it help me live better? Only then did they respond. Marcus Aurelius faced war, betrayal, plague, even the death of multiple children. He was the most powerful man in the world, and still he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You want real power? It's not domination, it's not revenge, it's inner mastery. So here's the habit. Every time something triggers you, pause. Just pause. That moment, that breath, is where your future is decided. Someone insults you, you pause and ask, is this about me or is this about them? You lose a deal, you pause and ask, what did I learn? What can I still control? You feel fear, you pause and ask, what part of this is real and what part is my imagination? This one habit alone can change your entire life, because every bad decision you've made, every regret, every relationship you damaged, every spiral you couldn't pull out of, it started with a reaction. The Stoics were emotional boxers. They trained to absorb blows without losing balance, and when the world threw chaos at them, they didn't throw it back. They stood calm, clear, composed. That's what you're capable of. You want to be powerful? Then practice stillness in chaos. You want to be free? Then choose your response every time. This isn't weakness. This is war, not against others, not against life, but against your own lower nature. And if you win that war, there is nothing you cannot handle. Still, water reflects clearly, but only when it is undisturbed. Habit 3. Do the hard thing daily. There's a story about a man who woke up before dawn every single day. No matter the weather, no matter the mood, no matter how late he'd worked the night before, he'd throw on his hoodie, step outside, and run. Not because he loved it, not because he felt like it, but because he had made a decision. If I only do what's comfortable, I'll never become who I'm meant to be. That man was David Goggins. We live in a world that tells you, do what feels good. Take a break. Listen to your body. And yes, there's wisdom in rest. But there's also a lie hidden underneath. Because if you always listen to what's easy, you silence the voice that pushes you forward. That voice, the one that says, get up, do it anyway. You're stronger than this. That voice doesn't speak in comfort. It lives in resistance. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. The Stoics didn't talk about discipline. They lived it. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. Yet he slept on the floor, fasted often, and walked barefoot in the snow. Seneca was one of the richest men in Rome. Yet he practiced poverty, sleeping on the ground, eating stale bread, wearing rough clothes. Why? Because they understood this. What you don't practice, you won't be ready for. And life will test you. Not once, not politely, but relentlessly. Death, loss, failure, betrayal. It will come. And when it does, comfort will not save you, but discipline might. Here's the truth no one wants to hear. Hard is the way. It's meant to be hard, because resistance isn't your enemy. It's your trainer. It doesn't block the path, it builds the path. Want a stronger body? You lift weights. Want a sharper mind? You wrestle with truth. Want deeper peace? You sit with discomfort until it stops scaring you. The Stoics knew this. They didn't wait for hardship. They sought it out, because voluntary discomfort does something extraordinary. It rewires your identity. Here's an example. Tim Ferriss, entrepreneur, author, investor. He admits he used to fear embarrassment, rejection, looking foolish. So, he started cold calling strangers, taking cold showers, practicing public speaking in his underwear. Why? To train his nervous system to remain calm in discomfort, to prove to himself, I can do things that scare me and survive. You see, most people think courage means the absence of fear. It doesn't. Courage means acting anyway, even when your legs shake, even when your mind doubts, even when comfort whispers, just stay where you are. The Stoics practiced silence, stillness, fasting, solitude, not because it was trendy, but because they knew something we've forgotten. If you don't face discomfort on your terms, it will find you on its own. Set aside now and then a number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, is this the condition that I feared? Seneca. You want to become strong? Then do one hard thing every day, not for punishment, not for attention, but to remember who you are without comfort. Run when it's cold, speak when you're afraid, sit in silence when your mind screams for distraction, turn off your phone, finish the work, do the rep, write the line, hold the standard, not because someone is watching, but because you are. This is not about macho toughness, it's about inner architecture, because every time you choose discomfort, you add another brick to the person you're becoming. It's the writer who writes when uninspired, the builder who lifts when sore, the leader who speaks truth even when unpopular, the parent who shows up exhausted again and again, the entrepreneur who keeps going through doubt, silence, rejection. They all share one habit. They do the hard thing daily. So what's your version? Wake up early, cold shower, no phone for 24 hours, sit in stillness, say the thing you've been avoiding, finish the thing you've been putting off. Don't think, just choose one hard thing every day. Do it not to impress, do it to build. Build a will stronger than your excuses, a spine straighter than your fears, a heart trained for impact, not applause. This is not about perfection, it's about proof. Proof that you can trust yourself. Proof that when life hits, you've already been in the ring, not once, but daily. If you wish to be good, first believe that you are bad. Epictetus. We're not born disciplined, we're forged. And that process, it begins with one choice. Today, choose the hard thing, then do it again tomorrow. Discomfort is not the enemy, it's the birthplace of your future self. Habit 4. Practice negative visualization. There's a moment that most people never prepare for, a moment when the phone rings, or the doctor walks in, or someone simply doesn't come home, and in that moment, the illusion breaks. Most of us walk through life thinking we have time. We treat days like loose change, people like permanent fixtures, and we confuse convenience with certainty. But the Stoics knew better. They had a phrase for it, premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Seneca said, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." In other words, if you face the worst in your mind, you won't fall apart when it arrives. It's not pessimism, it's training. It's rehearsing tragedy, so that gratitude doesn't slip through your fingers. The Stoics practiced this every day. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, would begin each morning reminding himself that, "Today I will meet people who are selfish, arrogant, deceitful, jealous." Not to become bitter, but to prepare. So when betrayal came, he'd already forgiven it. When loss came, he'd already held it in his hands. When death came, he'd already bowed to it. Let's bring this to today. Imagine waking up and imagining your spouse gone, your child gone, your job vanished, your health shattered, everything you love taken. How would you treat them today? Would you still rush through your conversations? Would you still scroll through breakfast? Would you still take their presence for granted? Or would you look up, breathe deeper, hold tighter, speak softer? Because the truth is, nothing is yours. Not really. Your mother, your partner, your limbs, your breath, all borrowed, all fleeting, all returning, eventually. This is not depressing, it's clarifying, because once you see that everything can be taken, you start cherishing everything. Steve Jobs once said, "Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose." He lived each day asking himself, "If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do?" And if the answer was no for too many days in a row, he changed something. We've forgotten how to remember. We avoid thinking about death like it's bad luck, but the Stoics believe the opposite. To remember death is to remember how to live. So they visualized it, their child dying, their home burning, their empire falling, their own heart stopping, not to cause suffering, but to awaken presence. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Marcus Aurelius. You want to feel more alive? Don't buy something, don't chase a thrill, don't numb yourself. Do this instead. Close your eyes, imagine the person you love most, gone. Imagine this moment, the last. Imagine today, never coming back. Stay there, hold it, let the grief in, let it crack you open, because inside that crack, gratitude pours in. We are all running out of time, you know this, but you forget. So write it on your mirror, set it on your lock screen, breathe it every morning. Memento mori. Remember you will die, because if you forget that, you will forget how to live. The Stoics didn't visualize loss to suffer, they visualized it to love, to kiss their child with full attention, to greet their partner with full awareness, to step into their day without sleepwalking through it. Nothing is ours except time, Seneca, and even that slips away second by second. So here's the habit. Every day, imagine the worst, not to fear it, but to stop pretending you're immune to it. Because once you stop fearing loss, you stop resisting life. Sit down, close your eyes. Picture the one thing you think you couldn't live without. Then lose it in your mind. Let it dissolve. And then open your eyes. Look at them. Look at now. And see it for what it really is. A gift. One that will end. He robs present ills of their power, who has perceived their coming beforehand. Let that not just be a quote. Let that be a daily practice, and watch how fast your ordinary life becomes sacred. Before we continue, pause. Ask yourself this: why are you still watching? What is it inside you that hasn't clicked away? You've watched over 30 minutes of philosophy, pain, power, and reflection. Most people tap out after 60 seconds. You didn't. And that says something. It says you're not like most people. You don't want surface. You don't want dopamine. You want depth. You want the truth, even when it cuts. So if that's you, if you're tired of being fed lies, if you crave a voice that doesn't just sell you comfort but calls you to wake up, then subscribe. Not for me, for yourself. This channel is a fortress, a place where the ancient meets the now, where silence speaks louder than noise, where men remember who they were meant to become. Because the war is real, and you need allies, you need reminders, you need weapons for the mind. Every episode here is one of those weapons, so click subscribe, and let's keep building that inner armor. Now, let's talk about the one war we rarely see. Not on a battlefield, not in politics, not in relationships, but in the quiet, just behind your eyes. Habit 5. Control your inputs. We are drowning in noise. We are assaulted daily by information we didn't ask for, and feelings that aren't even ours. Anger, fear, jealousy, distraction. Not because of what's happening in our lives, but because of what's being piped into our minds. If you are disturbed by external things, it is not they that trouble you, but your own judgment. Marcus Aurelius. The emperor wrote that 2,000 years ago. Now imagine what he would say if he had to scroll through your phone. The Stoics knew this. What you consume consumes you, and today we consume more than ever. We wake up and start downloading the world, politics, drama, body envy, celebrity worship, fear, and we wonder why we can't focus, why we're anxious, why we feel like life is passing by. Here's the answer. Your soul is on an IV drip, and the needle is your screen. This isn't just Stoic wisdom, it's biblical. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4:23. The ancients knew, your inputs shape your reality. Garbage in, garbage out. Silence in, wisdom flows. Imagine waking up and not grabbing your phone. Imagine sitting in stillness, journaling, reading a line of Seneca instead of a stranger's tweet. Imagine hearing your own thoughts again, not influencers, not algorithms, not 1,000 opinions colliding in your skull, but your own voice. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's strength. It's the place where your mind resets, where clarity emerges from chaos. That's what the Stoics did. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, would retreat into silence, in his tent, in battle, in the early morning, while the empire still slept. Why? Because he knew he couldn't rule millions if he couldn't rule his own mind. You want mental peace, You don't need a vacation. You don't need a detox spa. You need to take control of what's flowing in. Here's the habit. Control your inputs. Build an attention diet. Audit everything you let in. The podcasts you listen to. The accounts you follow. The conversations you tolerate. The screens you check before sleep. Replace junk with stillness. Replace outrage with wisdom. Replace chaos with deliberate silence. Turn off the screen. Go stare at the sea, at the clouds, at the wall if you have to. Just sit with your mind. You might not like what you find at first, but keep sitting, because eventually you'll find you, the real you, the one buried under 1,000 inputs, the one waiting to lead again. This is not about running from the world. It's about choosing which world enters you. So practice this. Each day ask, what am I letting into my mind? And is it building me or breaking me? Because in the end, your attention is your life, and you are giving it away one scroll at a time. If you are disturbed by external things, it is not they that trouble you, but your own judgment. Change your inputs, you change your judgment, and you change your life. Habit 6, keep a death log. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Marcus Aurelius. Narrator, measured, firm tone. This is going to sound harsh, but hear me out. You're going to die. Not in theory, not metaphorically, literally, physically, eventually. That moment, whenever it comes, is guaranteed. The only thing uncertain is how much life you'll waste before it happens. The Stoics weren't obsessed with death because they were dark or negative. They were obsessed with it because they understood one thing. Death is the only thing that gives life urgency. Think about how much time you waste when you forget this. The arguments, the petty drama, the meaningless scrolling, the I'll do it tomorrow excuses, all built on a dangerous assumption that you have time. But you don't know that. You don't know if you'll see next year, or next month, or even tonight, and neither do I. So the question is, how different would your life look if you really believed that? If you actually lived like every day could be your last? That's what the Stoics meant when they said, memento mori. Remember that you will die, not to depress you, but to wake you the hell up. This is where the death log comes in. It's a brutal habit, but it changes everything. Here's how it works. At the end of every day, before you go to bed, you sit in silence and you ask yourself one question. If I had died today, did I live like it mattered? And you write. You don't lie to yourself. You don't sugarcoat it. You write the truth. Sometimes the answer will hit you hard. No, I didn't. You wasted it. You procrastinated. You gave in to distraction. You didn't say what you needed to say. You didn't push. You didn't show up. Good. Now you know. You're not numbing yourself anymore. And guess what? Tomorrow doesn't have to be a repeat. Because once you're aware that your time is limited, and you're seeing that in writing every night, you start to act differently. You stop trying to win every argument. You stop chasing shallow validation. You stop putting off the work that matters. You show up. You focus. You cut the noise. Because now you're living under pressure. The good kind. The pressure of knowing that this could be it. And that pressure, that's clarity. That's power. Let me tell you something nobody says out loud anymore. Your funeral is already scheduled. You just don't know the date yet. And when that day comes, there will be no extensions. No one more scroll. No, let me just check one last notification. No, I'll do it next year. Game over. The Stoics knew this. That's why Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in human history, still wrote, you could leave life right now, because he understood. Position doesn't matter. Possessions don't matter. The spotlight doesn't matter. None of it means anything. If you forget, the clock is ticking. You want to get serious about your life? You want to stop being distracted, insecure, lazy? Start keeping a death log. Sit with that question every night. Did I live like it mattered today? No gimmicks, no filters, just raw honesty. That's the kind of discomfort that makes people unstoppable, because when you're not pretending you have time, you stop wasting it. People keep looking for motivation. There it is, right in front of you. You're going to die. Now act like it. Habit 7. Show up silently. Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. Marcus Aurelius. This last habit doesn't trend. It won't get you a viral moment, and nobody's going to give you a standing ovation for doing it. But it's one of the most powerful weapons you will ever carry through life. Show up silently. No announcements, no applause, just discipline and execution. We live in a time where everyone is shouting, "Look at me. Look what I'm doing. Look how hard I'm working. Look how much I've changed." But the Stoics, they knew better. They understood that real change doesn't need confirmation, that greatness doesn't beg to be seen, and that the strongest people in the room are usually the quietest. Seneca once said, "One should be content with being, not seeming." Today, it's reversed. Most people are obsessed with seeming, looking successful, sounding confident, appearing disciplined. But that's a performance, and eventually performances collapse. The Stoics would rather you be something than perform something. So here's the truth. If you're serious about building yourself, you need to disappear for a while. No posts, no explanations, just work. You get up early and read before the sun comes up? Great. Nobody needs to know. You're hitting the gym 5 days a week? Good. Let your posture change, not your bio. You're working late, building something that scares you with how much it matters? Perfect. Keep it between you and the silence. There's a unique strength in choosing to grow without witnesses. A strange kind of peace in not needing validation. Because when you stop performing for the world, you start working for yourself. You begin to develop true integrity. Doing the right thing when no one's watching, that's rare, that's real. Remember this, lions don't need to tell you they're lions, they just move like one. Let me show you a pattern you'll see over and over again. The ones who talk the most about the grind usually aren't grinding. The ones who constantly post about their mindset often don't live it. And the ones who boast about being disciplined usually burn out. Why? Because when your discipline is based on attention, the moment the attention fades, so does your discipline. But when your discipline is built in silence, when it's forged without witnesses, it lasts. Because now it's part of you. It's not something you post about. It's just who you are. Look back at the greats, the legends. Marcus Aurelius didn't publish Meditations. It was never meant to be seen. It was a private journal. Notes to himself, not the world, no hashtags, no followers, no audience, just a man sharpening his mind in the dark so he could lead in the light. Think of people like Kobe Bryant. He didn't live stream his 4 a.m. workouts, he just did them, day after day, year after year, and that silence is what separated him. You want to become dangerous? You want to build something unshakable? Start working in silence. No need to announce that you're building, just build. No need to declare war on your weaknesses, just win. And when the results come, because they will, when you start walking different, thinking different, being different, don't explain it. Let them guess. Let them overthink. Let them wonder. You don't owe the world a press release. Let your discipline speak. Let your peace confuse people. Let your strength feel quiet. And when they ask, "What happened to you?" smile and say nothing. Let them wonder. So, what does it actually look like when you live this way? What happens when these 7 habits aren't just ideas anymore, but part of your blood, your mornings, your silence? You become something rare. You become highly effective, but not in the modern sense. Not just productivity, money, and trophies. You become effective at the only thing that ever mattered, living well. Let's step back and look at what that life, a Stoic life, really becomes. Habit 1. Wake up with purpose. You don't hit snooze. You don't grab your phone. You start your day on purpose, with intention, with perspective. You're not waking up to rush. You're waking up to lead your own mind, your own choices, your own inner world. A few quiet minutes, a journal, a question. What matters most today? That's not just a habit, that's personal power. Habit 2. Train your response. Something goes wrong, and it will. But you don't panic. You respond instead of react. Someone insults you, you don't shrink, you don't explode. You stay centered, you choose what happens next. That single ability to hold your center while others lose theirs makes you unstoppable in a chaotic world. Habit 3. Do the hard thing daily. You lean into discomfort, not because it feels good, but because it forges strength. Cold showers, heavy work, unrewarded effort. You do it because that's how you sharpen the blade. Every time you choose difficulty over ease, you carve out the kind of discipline most people only talk about. Habit 4. Practice negative visualization. You don't wait for tragedy to wake you up. You wake yourself. You imagine loss, not to suffer, but to appreciate. You look at your child, your health, your time, and you don't take any of it for granted. That's what makes you dangerous in a beautiful way. You're not numb. You're alive to what's in front of you. Habit 5. Control your inputs. You're not plugged into noise all day. You're not doom scrolling. You're not drowning in opinions. You protect your attention like gold. You read what builds you. You sit in silence. You think for yourself. In a distracted world, that makes you clearer, sharper, more grounded. Habit 6. Keep a death log. You remind yourself often that this ends, that you could go, that they could go, that this breath is not promised. So you speak more honestly, you love more fiercely, you stop wasting time pretending to be someone you're not, you stop waiting to live. Habit 7. Show up silently. You don't announce your goals, you become them. You're done performing, you're done needing praise. You let your actions speak, and they speak loud. You don't need a stage, you just need a reason. You're the one doing the work when no one's watching, and over time, everyone watches, but you don't care because you didn't do it for them. You did it because it's who you are now. That's the ascent, not a sprint, not perfection, not some external reward system. Just clarity, discipline, simplicity. You don't flinch in chaos. You don't crave noise. You don't live based on likes or headlines or what they think you should do. You live by principle, by habit, by soul. You're calm when others panic. You're consistent when others break. You're kind and powerful because you've earned both. That's what highly effective really means. This isn't motivation. This isn't hype. And it's definitely not for entertainment. This is instruction, and the time for learning is over. You know what to do. You've seen the habits. You've heard the wisdom. You've felt the silence between the words. So now, we separate watchers from doers. You want to be more disciplined? Start tomorrow before the sun comes up. You want more control? Don't react to that message. Don't complain. Don't explain. Respond or stay silent. You want clarity? Turn off the noise. Delete the junk. Guard your inputs like your life depends on it, because it does. You want peace? Then live like someone who could die today. Not next year. Not after your career takes off. Today. All that's left is the doing. That's it. Because the world isn't changed by men who merely understand principles. It's changed by men who embody them, who live them, who bleed for them, who show up when it's inconvenient, unnoticed, and thankless. That's what separates a Stoic from a talker. That's what makes you effective, not the books on your shelf, not the quotes you share, not the videos you watch, but what you do when no one's watching, what you do when it's hard, what you do when your feelings scream to quit. But your character says, no, we finish this. You finish. So here's your challenge. Pick one habit, just one, and do it every day for 30 days. Wake with purpose, train your response, do the hard thing, practice death, starve the noise, show up silently. or track your mortality with a log. One habit, 30 days, no applause, no excuses, just proof. Let the world see who shows up. Let yourself see who you become. If this video meant something to you, if it reminded you of the man you could be, then don't scroll away. Subscribe, because the world needs fewer spectators and more men who build themselves from the inside out. This channel is for those men, and if you've made it this far, you're not here by accident. Subscribe, then do something hard today, on purpose. Don't argue what a good man should be. Be one. Don't argue what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius.